afternoon, folks. You remember that documentary they made a while back, the Weeping Camel, about those Mongolians and the camel that wouldn't let the young one milk or whatever? I kind of like that. I kind of like that documentary. I thought it was cool, and I always like that Mongolian fiddle music at the end. But the Weeping Camel, and today there's another phenomenon I want to talk about that I refer to as the Larping Trad, and this is pretty common, and I want to try to articulate what I mean when I use that term, and what I see in the problems with that. And I don't want this to be pervasive in the Catholic faith. I don't want this to be as pervasive as it is. And I think it is a easy temptation, but it's not the way. It's not the way to go. It's not the way of our faith. So we'll talk about that a bit today. So what do I mean by LARPing trad? And I'm not trying to make fun of anybody or just be abrasive or anything. This is actually something that concerns me and bothers me a little bit. But I do have a little bit of sympathy for it because it's something I've fallen into in the past. And I've recently come to realize that it is at odds with our faith and what we're supposed to do as Catholics. And a LARPing trad, what I'm referring to is these people who just want their own little corner of society. They want everything to be like the Middle Ages and traditional Catholicism, where the only music Gregorian chant, and all women wear long skirts and veils, and Latin's taught from kindergarten, and there's no Novus Ordo, and everything's just great, and there's not all these horrors we see in modernism. And it's understandable because we're in tough times, but LARPing, the thing about LARPing is that it's engaging in, like, unreality in a way. And hey, those times are gone. We're in a new stage of history that God specifically envisioned for us to be a part of from the beginning of time. So this nostalgia that people have for years and centuries gone by, oh, I was made for this century, I'm in the wrong time, like, that's a bit of a blasphemy against God, because he knew what the times would hold, and he knew who you were going to be as a person, and he stationed you at this post, so to speak. So this LARPing thing is, in a way, it's running away from that. It's turning away from the time that God stationed you at, your post, so to speak. So that's one thing that sort of bothers me about it. But I have, in recent times, taken more comfort in that fact that God doesn't give you a mission that you can't handle, to put it that sort of in that sort of metaphor. He doesn't give you what you can't handle, and he did specifically envision a role for you in the times that you were created for. So there's that aspect to it that I wish people would recall. But then more broadly about our Catholic faith and the manner in which Catholicism has spread across the globe. It's an anomaly, and it doesn't make sense in the world according to the Machiavellian principles that kind of govern ideology and rulers and stuff like that. The typical mode of exerting control and influence and spreading ideologies and stuff, that it doesn't apply to the Catholic faith, and it's an anomaly because of that. And that has some terrifying implications. And by terrifying implications, I mean, if you really think through them, because they seem obvious. You know, we all know Christ laid his life down, and we're called to lay our lives down. There's no greater love than to lay down your life for a friend. But if you really think about that, it's kind of a terrifying prospect that you're never going to attain what the kingdom of God intended us to do by the worldly means of force and deception and political maneuvering. That's not how we're going to do it. The only way to do it is to lay down your life. The blood of the martyrs is the seed of the church. And that is a phrase that we often hear repeated, but it's radical almost in the fact that it's intriguing in the sense that it makes no sense according to the normal way the world works. So we're an anomaly in that sense. And if we cloister ourselves in our own trad community or our own corner of Twitter as if we're just another identifiable group, oh, there's Lutheran Twitter and Muslim Twitter and Joe Biden Twitter and this Twitter and that Twitter and then there's Catholic Twitter. If we just act as if we're just another identifiable group, we're doomed for failure and persecution, I would say, because it's not how we're supposed to view ourselves. And I would also say additionally that the claims we make as Catholics, the stuff we believe about us following the one true faith, the extra ecclesiam nulla salus and all this stuff, that demands that we don't act as if we're just another identifiable group, that we have something that transcends space and time, that it transcends matter even, that it is not of this world. And I think there's a little bit of a danger in acting too much like we're in the world, even if it's Catholic in nature, the cultural things that we do, the veils and the icons and the incense and the home altars and the dewy reams and the Latin and the 1955 and all this. I think there's a real danger even in this stuff, although it's very spiritually rooted in the one true faith. I think you can go very far along the cultural Catholic lines, even the traditional cultural Catholic sort of lines, but not have any true sense of the spirituality of it. And I'm not accusing anybody, but I'm just saying I think you can go really far and only have it as sort of a cultural identifier without really living out that mission to lay down your life, because Christ, we don't deserve anything more in this life than what Christ received. And he died with nothing, not even a cloak on his back, died a criminal's death. They ridiculed him, unjustly convicted him, and you know they kicked the shit out of him, and he underwent a lot of torture and pain and humiliation despite having committed no sin. And he died with nothing, and he didn't have a wife or a girlfriend or family or any sort of this worldly comfort and security that we all take for granted. And we want to cling to the Constitution. We want to cling to our American founding in some ways and try and reconcile that with our Catholicism. And you're going to be disappointed if you do that. So you need to be prepared to lay down your life and not be a Larping Trad. Don't try and tie yourself up in the world, because our traditions and our culture as Catholics is rooted in something good and true. That's not the extent of it. That's not the end of it. And I think there's a danger in that. And I see it a little bit more. But consider that terrifying reality, that truth, that our faith spreads by its followers laying down their lives and being humiliated and ridiculed and killed sometimes in horrible ways and imprisoned. That's how our faith spreads, because it's not of this world. So be careful and don't fall into this. It's better to be a weeping camel than a Larping Trad. And I'm not saying we should be miserable or doormats or anything, but I do believe that. My soul is sorrowful even unto death, said Jesus Christ. And again, without being doormats or just being miserable or depressed, that we are to mimic that in a way. And don't get discouraged, because if you lay down your life, that's the greatest thing you can do. That's the greatest power you have as a Catholic, is to lay down your life for your friends, for the faith, out of love for Jesus Christ. So you should take comfort in that, because it might be coming, and it's already happened in all other countries around the world throughout all the centuries. It's happening right now in other places, and so prepare yourself for that instead of trying to form a trad Catholic village, because it's destined for failure in a lot of ways, and it's not what we're called to do. We don't get that worldly comfort of having our own community or our own nice corner of Twitter where we can all just be trad together and live a happy life without the filth of modernism seeping in and all the sins of the age and stuff like that. We don't get that, and God knew what we would be in for. So just prepare yourself for that instead of being a Larping Trad.